Hi guys, what's up? It's me, Audra, and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new, I'm not sure how you got here, but certainly I'm glad you came. And if you are new here, well, you're in for a treat. Alright guys, if you are a fan of chaotic, frenetic energy, then I suggest you subscribe right now, because it's going to be a good time. If not, I don't know what's wrong with you. Come on. Chaotic energy? So today is Tuesday, which means it is Terror Tuesday. And for those of you new to my channel, Terror Tuesday is when I discuss horror-related things while putting on my makeup. Alright, and everything for anybody who's wondering that I'm putting on my face will be in the description below. So let's get started. So today, instead of focusing on a specific horror film, I actually wanted to talk about the importance of Black people in horror, because as a
Black person,
I knew that I really loved horror very, very early. There are a few reasons why, and one of them is what we're going to talk about today, is how Black people were invited to the party. So if you're wondering, or if you've ever been curious, stay tuned. One of the movies that really catches my eye is George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead. Now that's always going to be a classic, and it's always going to be one of the greatest zombie films ever made. Of course, then he topped it by making an even greater zombie film, which was Dawn of the Dead. So, all right. One of the reasons that that movie is so important is because it made a Black person the lead. Now, Night of the Living Dead came out in 1968, and it was during a time of a lot of civil unrest, where Black people were not treated as equals quite often, and it was just a really rough and terrible time. Not unlike now. Anyhow, this became a big deal, and a lot of people just don't really, I guess, think about it, but when George A. Romero did this, he made a Black person the lead of his movie, alongside a white woman. All right, it starred Dwayne Jones as Ben. He was an unknown stage actor at the time, and he was depicted as a comparatively calm and resourceful Negro. You know, in real life, he was actually a very distinguished man, and also he had previously been a university professor. So, you know, he fit the bill. It also starred Judith O'Dea as Barbara, you know, the "they're coming to get you, Barbara. So one of the things that really made this movie phenomenal was not just the first time of really seeing zombies, like real zombies, not voodoo zombies, not fake ass zombies, but like created zombies, and that they wanted to eat you and kill you. They weren't your slaves, because that's what zombies previously were, and that's what I mean by voodoo zombies. But these ones were not your slaves. They were not going to just be like, okay. These zombies weren't fucking around. As the movie progresses, everybody is finding out that everything is going pretty terrible. They're getting scared. Everybody's getting pretty nervous. And eventually, Ben does manage to escape, which is amazing, especially for that time. But he manages to escape, which was a big deal. And you were really excited. Well, these days you were rooting for him because, you know,
the Black man survived.
And unfortunately, he is mistaken for a ghoul by a large amount of white guys, and he is shot and thrown into the fire, which was very reminiscent of those times. But it actually really set the stage for inviting Black people to the table. And this is one of the reasons why I got so heavily into horror, because I really loved being able to see Blackness represented. And the thing is, as opposed to a lot of other like mainstream movies, and I do mean this
in the rudest possible way,
but I felt like a lot of times Black people in their natural habitat, which sounds stupid to say, was often depicted more in horror than in anything else. In horror movies, Black people went to college, Black people were intelligent, Black people were in school, Black people had other things to do besides be stereotypes. I'm not saying all stereotypes are wrong, but I am saying it was very nice to see in film. So growing up, I really loved horror movies. And I've said this before, but one of the things that I truly enjoyed about Nightmare on Elm Street is that you do have Kincaid, who actually survives an entire film to come back to another film only to get killed again. But it's a horror film. Most people don't survive most of the sequels. Even Nancy didn't. Now, I know there's going to be some people in the comments saying,
But Audra, the black people died first.
or whatever they have to say about it. And here's what I have to say.
At least they were being represented as human beings.
The thing that really made a difference is that the black people in the movies were no longer just being stereotypical, just saying like, you jab, turkey. Like, they were doing something. They were a part of history. As a matter of fact, horror was so influential on black culture that even Michael Jackson made an entire long-form music video, which we still use that format today,
Thanks, Michael Jackson.
based on a horror film with Vincent Price. Tell me I'm wrong. As a matter of fact, horror was also so influential that Jada Pinkett was in two, yes, that's right, you heard me, two different horror films.
But Audra, what do you mean two? I didn't even know she was in one.
She was in Demon Knight, which is still one of my all-time favorites. I love that movie. It's so good. Like, if you have not seen that, I highly, highly encourage you to watch it because it is good on levels even I wasn't prepared for. And there's just these nuances that just make it so fun and funny. But she was also in Scream. Actually, one of the most heart-wrenching screams ever. The intro just kind of blew me away and honestly, seriously hurt my feelings. Like, the way that she dies in that movie is horrific. If you haven't seen it,
Spoilers.
everybody is at the theater to see the latest Stab movie. Jada Pinkett is there with her boyfriend, played by Omar Epps. He gets killed in the bathroom, and she gets stabbed. Now, the thing that makes this so horrific, because I know you're sitting there like, Audra, this isn't even horrific. It actually is. And the reason it is so, so horrific is because what happens is, yes, she is stabbed, but after she is stabbed, she is trying to get help. And she is crying out to the audience to save her and help her. And yet no one does, because they all think that it's part of the shenanigans. You know how people go see Rocky Horror Picture Show and everybody just acts all like they're in the movie and they do different yell out stuff from the movie? Well, that's what people thought was happening in this movie, but it wasn't. By the time they figure out that she's actually getting killed, it's too late. Yeah, it's too late. And it's really one of the, like, those scenes that genuinely, like, to this day, I don't like to watch it. I can't. It really hurts me. Because I just, like, know that, I mean, at that time, we were a society that did shit like that. So that's the other reason I love black people in horror, because it gave us a voice that really wasn't heard. So, like, in Night of the Living Dead, you see exactly what happened. Like, he manages to escape. He rescues himself. He's doing well. And what happens?
He gets killed anyway.
And all he did was survive. Like, what the actual fuck? And of course, let's not forget Brandy. Brandy the singer?
Yes, Brandy the singer.
She shows up in I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. Yes, you guys, yes she did. And she survived, because as time started moving forward, the black character began to get more and more evolved and had more survival skills. And if you want me to get even more in depth with the whole thing, let me just explain. Not only were the black characters more involved and having more survival skills, but the black characters often helped everybody to survive or win or get away, even if sometimes they themselves didn't get away. In fact, Mr. Hottie himself from Stella Got a Groove Bake, Tay Diggs. Tay Diggs, I remembered his name. You guys,
You should get shook.
Tay Diggs, but even Tay Diggs, he's in the remake of A House on Haunted Hill, which we'll talk about at a later date because that movie ushered in a whole lot of cool shit. But he survives as well. Also, it was a space where a lot, and still continues to be, a space where a lot of dark-skinned black people are represented. Nothing against light skins. Don't get mad at me. So growing up for me meant I was watching a lot of horror movies because it was a space in which I, as a black girl, was represented, which I really liked. You know, you gotta love your representation. It was a space where black people were intelligent. Hate to say it, but it's true. The majority of mainstream movies with black people in them featured them in a highly stereotypical way, often where they were just the comedic relief. Also, horror became a wonderful place, well, I wouldn't say wonderful, but a place to highlight the struggles of black people that wasn't highlighted anywhere else. It was always an allegory, but if you were not, I mean, you had to be a complete idiot not to see it. Sorry. So when you fast forward now into modern times, you see movies like Get Out come through. And if you look at the times, what was happening during that time and continuing to happen. This is not meant to be like super political or hurt anyone's feelings, but during the time that Get Out came out, we had several black people getting shot for really no reason at all, children getting shot, and people just walking away, getting away with it. No real consequences, and a country apathetic to the plight. And as was depicted in the film Get Out, where black people were crying out for help, but no one was listening. Or those who were listening, it was falling on tone-deaf ears. They were so afraid of being called racist or being seen as racist in any way, shape, or form, or even having to confront their own privilege, that they didn't bother with it. They were just like, you guys are going crazy, like just calm down, follow the rules. And if we're being completely honest, just like horror is one of the best things that horror does is allow us to confront our fears. And as a black person, I get to confront some of my deepest fears. But Audra, what could you have to fear? Well, as in the movie Get Out, and I'm going to continue to reference that because that is most recent to the plight. But it really truly does highlight
The fear of being erased.
this is a plight many black people fear. And it's very well and eloquently highlighted in the movie Get Out. In that, the white people in the film wanted everything having to do with black people without actually being black people. In fact, they wanted it so bad that they wanted to be black on the outside and white on the inside, which...
Blackfishing anyone?
This is literally a fear of virtually every black person. The fear that you're going to be erased, that everything that black people have built will be taken from them. It's one of the reasons why you hear so many black people say, it's not just a hairstyle. That's not what it's about. It's not even about it being protective or... It's about, that is our culture and that is our history, and it's being snatched up from us. Of course we're gonna get upset. When the majority is coming for the minorities' things and their culture, things get a little ugly, and you're definitely able to see this in Get Out. In fact, in both Get Out and a movie called Obsessed starring Beyonce, which technically could be considered a thriller, but really,
It's horror.
one great fear that many black people face is the fear of interracial dating, specifically
Dating someone white.
the concern that you would lose your identity and your cultural blackness is there and alive and kicking with the idea of you dating outside your race. And in the case of Obsessed, there's a very real fear that a white woman is going to come and steal the black man that you have worked so hard to build up. This is a real fear, y'all. The fears of many black men and women are written very deftly in a lot of these types of films. And it's something a lot of people take for granted. A lot of people don't realize or see these things in horror. People just think, oh, it's a slasher film. Who cares? But in Friday the 13th Part 7, you had a very preppy black couple. Do they die? Yes, but virtually everyone dies in Friday the 13th. Let's not get crazy with it. But they are two yuppie style, just your average all-American black couple hanging out, having good times, having some funs, and it's cool to see. It's something you don't get to see all that often, and especially then didn't get to see. A lot of times on television, we were just shown one type of black person. Maybe two if we got lucky. It is actually one of the few movie spaces where black people aren't treated as if everyone's got a 9-inch carrot and every black woman is a freak. And if you're not yet convinced, go look at A Vampire in Brooklyn, okay? Okay. So that is a movie with Eddie Murphy, who brought the vampire lore. Well, I mean, he didn't bring it, but he brought the modern day vampire lore to black culture. At the time, I don't know that a lot of people really got it, but now it's considered, a classic. Not only was it not a comedy where it was like, black people being vampire, like Blackula, not that there's anything wrong with Blackula, don't come for me now. But also Eddie Murphy did a really good job of introducing like the debonair black man. Side note, Angela Bassett looked amazing in that movie. Just stunning. And you also had Tales from the Hood, which again was bringing the black experience to horror in a way that hadn't been done before. I always feel like there's just like a little slight difference in a fully black horror film, which is where we are today, than maybe other genres. Could be me, could be my bias as a black girl. Who knows? And as a horror fan, generally speaking, black stereotypes tend to be broken down far more quickly in a horror film and going out to normal mainstream movies after the fact. Once it was realized that people would accept black people in these roles, then it would come out to the mainstream. Y'all didn't even know. And back to Jada Pinkett Smith. In Demon Knight, she fully survived a whole demon apocalypse and in fact becomes the carrier to save the rest of the world from this point forward for another 200 some odd years.
A black woman.
Can you fucking believe it?
Essentially, if it weren't for horror films, I would not have been able to embrace my blackness, embrace my culture, see all different forms of what it meant to be black, and also face the very real fears I have as a black person in America. Alright guys, that is it. I hope you enjoyed this. I am dressed up with nowhere to go, but I look damn good going nowhere, don't I? Thank you so much for watching, and if you made it this far, you may as well go ahead and hit that like button because you already subscribed. You know you did. Thank you so much. I love each and every one of you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Stay safe out there, and until next time, deuces! Ooh, bitch. Very Morticia-esque. Rock with me, rock with me, rock with me. We're not going to talk about my brows being cousins because we're talking about a very serious fucking topic right now. Ooh, I like this. Do I do the same basic bitch ass look every time? You goddamn right I do.